When we expect a huge breakthrough from God and it seems like nothing changes, that can be one of the most heartbreaking experiences as a Christian. That's what happens to one of the most powerful prophets in the Bible. His name is Elijah. He went from literally being on the mountaintop showcasing the power of God to falling into depression and wanting his life to end after he didn't see the breakthrough that he had expected. Elijah was living in a time after King David and after King Solomon, when the nation of Israel was now losing their faith. They were being led by King Ahab and Queen Jezebel, who were actively prosecuting God's prophets. Elijah famously, although incorrectly, said, "I stand alone as one of the only prophets of God." And because Jezebel was actively persecuting the prophets, Elijah's life was in danger. In fact, God had asked Elijah to go and hide in the home of a widow for many years. Now, you can think of the mental state of Elijah. Here he was having to hide for his life in a woman's house. The stress, the cortisol buildup, the anxiety buildup, all of that was hard, but he was willing to go for it because of what he hoped for. He had hope in God, that God would show up and destroy all of this false worship. And so when God calls Elijah to a mountaintop to confront the nation, Elijah thinks this is it. You can see it in the way he confronts the other prophets. So Elijah gets on the mountain, he says, "I alone will stand for God. You 450 prophets stand for Baal. Let's see whose God shows up." Both camps made a sacrifice and were supposed to call on their God to bring down fire. The false prophets go first and they get nothing. And Elijah starts taunting them. "Oh, maybe your God is on a break. Maybe he's sleeping." This is mockery, but this is also a very human response when you're about to get victory. Victory you've been waiting on for ages. And so when Elijah calls on God, God sends down a consuming fire from the heavens for everyone to see. Elijah feels victorious. Even the people themselves start saying, "God is God." This is what Elijah hoped for, except it isn't. Because the next day, after this wondrous sign from God, after a night of epic revival and confrontation led by Elijah, it seemed like nothing changed. King Ahab and Queen Jezebel were still in power. Their political system was still intact. And in fact, Jezebel, in her power, tells Elijah, "You now have a target on your back. I am coming for you." And Elijah falls apart. You see, Elijah had waited years for this moment. In this moment, his hope spiked, then snapped under the weight of his own expectation. And this sends him into a downward spiral emotionally. He starts questioning, what is the point of this? What is the point of my life? Just take it. Do I even understand God? And what I love about God is how he reassures Elijah. God doesn't respond with correction, he responds with reassurance. God saying, "You were not wrong about me. I am who I am, but that also means you cannot know how I will move." And God shows him this. You see, we're told that on this mountain, just for Elijah, there was an earthquake, like there was in Mount Sinai for Moses, but God wasn't in the earthquake. There was a strong wind, like the wind that parted the Red Sea, but God wasn't in the wind. There was fire, like there was just fire on the mountain where Elijah was, but God wasn't on the fire. God was in a small, still voice. God moved in all those loud, undeniable ways, but God's power is not limited to these outwardly signs. God's power is in his word. He will speak it and it will come to pass. Even if it doesn't come to pass the way we thought it would. Our faith must rest in the fact that God is moving because he is who he says he is, not how God is moving. Our expectation is in him. Our hope is in him, not in his signs. But the truth is, all of this is head knowledge, and God knows this. Even though he gives Elijah the small, still voice, Elijah is in a distressed, depressive state of mind. And this is the part that really gets me. As Christians, we can sometimes over-spiritualize what God has taught us to actually humanize, especially when it comes to emotional health. When someone we love is down and they're giving up, we can get into a spiritual panic mode. We start saying, you need to fast, you need to pray at 3 a.m., you need to rebuke darkness and speak life, speak life. And surely there is a time for that. But God himself showed us a different approach. When his prophet Elijah is so depressed that he wants to take his life, God models out what it is to care for mankind. You see, God simply treats Elijah like he is a person. God made us body, soul, and spirit. And so he ministers to Elijah in that way. He ministers to Elijah's body by giving him rest and food and rest and food. His body needed energy. He ministers to Elijah's soul by giving him a listening ear. 2 times he asked Elijah, "Elijah, what is wrong?" Now God is all knowing. Whenever he asks a question, it's not for him. He already knows. It's for our benefit. And so when you ask Elijah, tell me what is wrong, we see Elijah pour out his emotional distress. He says, Lord, I'm the only one left. Lord, I have such zeal for you. Oh, everything is terrible. It's a bit exaggerated, of course. When we're in an emotional state, it's very hard to decipher the truth. But God didn't correct him. He didn't rebuke him and say, speak life. God simply let his soul pour out all of the emotional baggage it had been carrying. And finally, we are spirit. God ministered to Elijah's spirit with his own Holy Spirit, the presence of God himself. And only when he had ministered to him fully did God offer up the solution. He didn't go directly for fix-it mode. He didn't go into accusatory mode. He just treated Elijah like he is human. Because sometimes you can't rebuke sleep deprivation. Sometimes you can't just fast away emotional exhaustion. These things will come to pass if we would just minister to each other the way the Lord himself has showed us how to. And for sure, we can pray and fast for that person. We have the strength to. That's how we carry each other's burdens. But when it comes to how you show up for that person, follow the example that God himself has set before us.